Hi, my name is Mike, and I love movies. Like many movie lovers, at the end of every year, I rank the films I most enjoyed in top 10 lists. Since the 2010s have ended, I decided to compile a list of 25 of my favorite movies from this past decade. This list is purely subjective. These may not be movies that you would put on your list, or even in the order that I've placed them in. My only goal here is that if you haven't seen some of these movies, you would consider checking them out. Without further ado, here are my top 25 films of the past decade. 1917 looks like it was filmed in one continuous, unbroken take. While this is all but a clever editing trick, the effect is there. Complete immersion in the journey of two soldiers who have to deliver a crucial message. The one-shot look of the movie heightens the suspense. Because the movie doesn't cut away to other shots and angles, the audience isn't given a chance to breathe. We're right there, behind the characters, every step of the way as they encounter one obstacle after another. It's an unrelenting experience, almost like being placed in VR. The film was also shot by the legendary cinematographer Roger Deakins, so naturally there are many breathtaking sequences. The Revenant is what you would get if Terrence Malick tried to make an action film. Set in the 19th century, we find Leonardo DiCaprio braving land and sea to exact vengeance for his first and only Best Actor Oscar. This is another film with a lot of long takes that immerse you in the gorgeous environments of the film. The cast and crew shot on location in the wilderness, so the battle sequences have a visceral feel to them. With an R rating, The Revenant doesn't shy away from gruesome violence. It is a brutal and punishing film. A Quiet Place is a high-concept, low-budget film that places us in a terrifying post-apocalyptic world where sound is our enemy. Every suspense sequence seems to be working towards surpassing the previous one, and there are a lot of memorable sequences. This was the first film since Jurassic Park that made me feel the edge of your seat, claw your face off kind of suspense. It's a film that is constantly trying to outdo itself and does not relent until it cuts to the credits. Mad Max Fury Road is a non-stop action thrill ride from beginning to end. The entire movie is one long car chase filled with practical effects and stunts. Imagine all the best elements of a car chase: gunfights, cars flipping, explosions, people jumping on and off different vehicles, thrown together in a beautifully choreographed visual spectacle. It's light on the story, but just enough to give us a sense of what brought the world to this point and what small step these characters can take to restore the balance in their section of the planet. It's action filmmaking executed to near perfection. Dunkirk is not your typical war film for a couple of reasons. One, it's a Christopher Nolan film, so that means the events are told out of order, non-chronologically. Second, the plot of the film is as minimalistic as you can get in a big-budget movie. Get the soldiers off the beach before the enemy destroys them. Third, and most importantly, Dunkirk is less a film about war and more a film about survival. It actually functions as more of a suspense thriller that cuts through battles by land, sea, and air to give the audience a constant sense of anxiety. The film is shot in gorgeous 70mm IMAX with a ton of practical effects. It is easily Christopher Nolan's best looking film. Amour is a film that shows how the love of a husband is tested when he must care for his wife as she becomes a hollow shell of who she once was. The film is unflinching in its approach to its subject, showing with cold detachment the pain of seeing a loved one wither away. It's a rare portrayal of love, not as a romantic notion, but as a commitment. When Denis Villeneuve was announced as the director of the Blade Runner sequel, movie fans all knew this property was in good hands. Blade Runner 2049 is one of the rare sequels that improves upon an original classic. It's bigger in scope and expands the concepts and themes of its predecessor. It respects and pays homage to the original while also charting new territory. With Blade Runner 2049, Villeneuve has crafted a modern science fiction classic. Bong Joon-ho may be known for the Oscar-winning Parasite, but his true masterpiece, in my opinion, is his 2010 film Mother. It's a tightly told murder mystery with Bong's signature styles, subversive twists, and artfully strange moments. I love how Bong takes the conventions of genres and flips them on their head. Mother is a prime example of that. Back when my wife was my girlfriend, we watched this charming little film from Taiwan that we couldn't stop smiling through. A lot of the Asian films we've seen are either dark, depressing, and or have a pessimistic outlook on life. Au Revoir Taipei seems to go against the grain. It feels like a romantic comedy made by Pixar, with teenagers, cops, gangsters, and dancing. It's a lighthearted romp through the streets of Taipei that we both look fondly upon. Ex Machina is a hard sci-fi film that poses fascinating questions about artificial intelligence. The writing in this film is filled with conversations that'll make you think about the philosophical implications of such technology. This was director Alex Garland's debut film, but the way he shaped the ominous atmosphere with glossy cinematography and dark synth music felt like the work of an established auteur. One thing I appreciated so much about Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow is how gently it approaches its subject matter. The film is about a married man who is gay and struggles with remaining in the closet. While there's heartbreak and pain in exploring such a serious subject matter, writer-director Arvin Chen is able to inject whimsical humor amidst the turmoil. The film earns our empathy and understanding as we cry and laugh with these characters. The Raid 2 is my favorite action film of the decade. With a bigger budget, director Gareth Evans expands the series into a sprawling crime drama. The main showcase here, though, is the intense and brutal fight choreography. Bones are crushed, arms are snapped, throats get slashed. It is a bloody and gruesome affair. If you can stomach that kind of violence, The Raid 2 shows us that there is still new territory to be covered in the realm of action and fight choreography. After making big-budget Hollywood films for 10 years, director Alfonso Cuarón chose to return to his roots to make a small, intimate family drama inspired by the events from his childhood. Right from the opening shot, Roma entranced me with the vibrant world of 1970s Mexico City. Every frame reveals a world that is lived in. Cuarón uses long pans throughout the film to fill in the atmosphere and energy of that time period. While technically brilliant, in the end, Roma is a moving story about the perseverance and strength of a young woman who balances her own personal struggles and the struggles of the family she serves. Denis Villeneuve has made a name for himself as one of the most exciting directors in the past decade. With Arrival, he crafted a science fiction classic that constantly surprised me. The film has an original twist that pulls the rug from underneath us and completely changes the meaning of the entire film. It's deeply moving and conveys complicated ideas and emotions with grace and poetry. The Place Beyond the Pines is an epic generational drama about fathers and sons. It has an unconventional structure that was surprising to me, but necessary in achieving the kind of emotional resonance that it pulls off. When I first saw the film, it made me think of my relationship with my own father. The film has taken on new meaning over the years as I've become a father of 2 sons. The experience of watching this film in a packed theater on opening night was one of the most joyful experiences I've had in the movies. It was one of the few films where people in the audience, including myself, were screaming at the top of our lungs. Avengers Endgame is a wholly satisfying conclusion to one of the most successful movie franchises of all time. The Before trilogy consists of 3 movies that were released 9 years apart from each other. The first film, Before Sunrise in 1995, the second film, Before Sunset in 2004, and the third film, Before Midnight in 2013. Each film revisits the same characters played by Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy every 9 years and shows how they've matured over the course of time. Each film is made up entirely of scenes where 2 people walk around town talking about anything and everything. The three films are showcases in authentic dialogue and bringing words to life through authentic performances. When we watch Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy in these three films, we aren't watching actors so much as seeing real people having real conversations. And while you may not agree with every one of their views on life, these three films have captured something universal in every relationship. The Social Network is one of my favorite examples of how masterfully written dialogue can not only carry individual scenes, but an entire movie. Writer Aaron Sorkin is a master of words, and this film is a canvas for his sharp, rapid-fire dialogue. Paired with a master director in David Fincher, with wonderful performances from the cast, The Social Network is an exhilarating film from start to finish. Her is a sci-fi drama from writer-director Spike Jonze, who gives us a creamy, pastel-colored glimpse of a future where a man falls in love with his operating system, played by Scarlett Johansson. I loved how the film uses its sci-fi concept to explore themes of loneliness, love, and loss without ever becoming cynical. It's an honest look at how we crave connection, no matter how unlikely the place. Asghar Farhadi's A Separation begins with a simple premise with only a few characters. It slowly snowballs into a complex drama that comments on gender roles and tradition versus modernity in Iranian society. It's one of those films that pulls you deeper and deeper into the tension between the characters. The writing and acting are so good, it felt like watching a documentary about real people. While it takes place in a culture and nation that I'm not that familiar with, the people and their struggles are so universal in this film. Anyone from anywhere in the world has access to what Farhadi is trying to convey. The last time I saw a film and thought to myself, wow, I saw something new, was back in 2010 with Christopher Nolan's Inception. It's the only film in which my wife, who is not easily impressed by movies, came out exclaiming, "That was so good." Inception is a film that is awesome from the concept. A heist film about thieves using shared dreams to steal information from people's minds. Nolan builds an action-adventure film around that idea, while also playing with structure and time as he always does. His stubborn use of practical effects on such a big canvas pays off with iconic sequences like the hallway fight scene. Inception set a high bar for blockbuster filmmaking, and its influences are still felt today. Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive is an art house action film, a mashup of different genres and eras of movies, a dreamlike fairy tale wrapped inside an LA neo-noir crime drama. Refn's direction in this film is perfect. Every shot is meticulously framed and vibrantly colored. One of the main stars of the film is the electronic 80s songs, an ethereal score by Cliff Martinez that transports us into a retro world set in modern times. We've gotten a lot of throwback movies and TV shows this past decade, and I feel like Drive was one of the first ones to have kicked off this 80s wave. Ida is a pensive look at uncovering the past and searching for one's identity in their family history. It's a film that takes its time, slowly pacing scenes out with silence, creating the space and distance for emotions to build and simmer. The performances by the two lead actresses are so good, words are rarely used to express what the characters experience. The film is shot in gorgeous digital black and white and is made up entirely of still shots. The entire movie looks like a photograph, the composition of every frame so striking it took my breath away from simply looking at it. Ida is a fantastic example of minimalist storytelling, and its director, Paweł Pawlikowski, is one of my favorites of the decade. With 40 years of legacy weighing on this one film, I thought it was a bold move to begin the first 40 minutes of the movie with completely new characters in Rey, Finn, Poe, and Kylo Ren. But J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan introduced them so beautifully, showing rather than telling, with humor and fun, that I almost forgot that this was also a movie that featured the return of Han Solo, Leia Organa, and Luke Skywalker. I was filled with joy to see new characters interacting with old ones, the synergy between them, and all the surprises in between. This is a film that kept delivering emotionally, over and over again, until the end when Rey finally meets the legendary Luke Skywalker. I was never a huge Star Wars fan until this film. The Force Awakens was the movie that made me fall in love with this mythology, and I will forever be grateful for it, regardless of the legacy of the two movies that followed it. One of the most important things to me in any story is how it ends. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises is the perfect ending to my favorite movie trilogy of all time. It's a film that acknowledges and references the films that came before it, while also completing story and character arcs in an emotionally satisfying way. I love how the film tears down the Batman legend and then builds him back up to be the symbol of hope for the people of Gotham. The final 20 minutes of the film are some of the deepest feelings I felt in a movie. While this is the end of the saga, I love how it still leaves things open-ended. I should say though that the film is far from perfect and its legacy is complicated, with many online critics unable to look past its plot holes that seem too illogical. It didn't bother me. The Dark Knight Rises took me on a huge emotional ride and finished with so much catharsis. This was my favorite movie of the 2010s.